Hello and welcome to this stress management presentation. My name is Jeremy Joseph and I am the Assistant Director for the Office of Care and Civility. And our office has had the opportunity to collaborate with the Quality Enhancement Plan to put together this stress management presentation as part of our Be Well Week. And so originally we wanted to provide this presentation on campus, but due to recent events and considering the current state of things, we had to transition from in-person to virtual. But thankfully for technology, we're still able to provide a presentation through a virtual platform. So I am certified in emotional intelligence. I was recently certified at the end of last year, and I'm currently going through a health and wellness coaching certification through Well Coaches. And both of these have provided an opportunity for me to be educated in the component of stress management. And so today I wanted to focus on stress management through the lens of emotional intelligence, highlighting really three areas to focus on today. One being to have a better understanding of stress management. The second, to bring some awareness of stress management. And then lastly, to provide some practical application of really how to improve your stress management skills. I had a video that I wanted to play today, but unfortunately I have not quite figured out how to play the video and audio through a recording on PowerPoint. I can get the audio to play, but not the video, so forgive me for that. But I do recommend checking out this video if you have time. It's a short video, about 2 minutes long, but it does a great job of illustrating how stress affects your mind and body. So you can check it out now if you want to pause the recording, or you can check it out at the end. So the video from the previous slide does a great job of illustrating what stress is, and how there's both positive stress and negative stress, but that stress is inevitable. Stress affects everyone, and everybody actually has a different capacity for stress, and everybody's capacity is different. It's relative to each individual, but today I want to focus more on the actual tool of stress management. How do we manage that stress? And so what is stress management? Stress management is a definition of stress management is that it's concerned with your ability to be flexible, tolerate stress, and be optimistic. And so when you think about things, ways to be successful in stress management and what that looks like, one is to have the ability to be able to remain calm in stressful situations. Another is to be focused, not letting stress, whether that's positive or negative, detract from your focus. Having the ability to change directions, right? So if you're flexible, when things happen, maybe you're exposed to new stressors, you are flexible enough to be able to change directions and not let that have a negative impact on you. Another success is to be able to demonstrate resilience, right? So in the face of stress, you don't let it stop your forward progress, but you're able to be resilient. You're able to, continue going on the path that you have. And lastly, I would say is a positive attitude. So here comes the optimism. Being able to remain positive despite the different situations, despite setbacks, despite whatever it is that you may be going through, whatever the circumstance may look like. I want to break this stress management concept down into three areas of focus. The first being flexibility. And thinking of flexibility, I came across a quote by Charles Darwin, which I think does a great job of explaining flexibility. And it states, "It is not the stronger of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." And so thinking about the definition of flexibility, it is the ability to adjust your feelings, thoughts, and actions to changing, challenging, or unfamiliar conditions. So, in essence, really, how adaptable are you? So, what I like to do is compare what low flexibility looks like to compare to high flexibility. So, if we look at a person who is low in flexibility and maybe has a low skill set in flexibility, that could manifest in someone being rigid, um, hard to change, stuck in patterns, and familiar or comfortable with the status quo. So all of these would be concept of somebody who's low in flexibility compared to somebody that's high in flexibility, right? So you have somebody who is able to adapt to changing conditions, somebody that's open to new ideas, to different changes of behavior. They have a ability to go with the flow. Um, they're not stuck. And so a drastic difference between low flexibility and high flexibility. But all of that is important into how we respond to stress, to different challenges and new environments that we find ourselves in. I like to also bring some awareness to flexibility. So thinking about a self-assessment. If you have a pen and grab a notebook or something to write with and write down a number of set routines that play out regularly throughout your day. Do you ever vary these routines? If so, how often? And then list 3 things you would like to alter in these routines. So the great thing about skills is that they can always be improved. Whether you're low, whether you're high, you can always do something to improve your skills. So I want to give you some practical applications, some strategies for action of how to improve your flexibility. One thing to think about is maybe try to learn something new. Move outside of your area of expertise and learn something new. This could be anything from learning a new language, maybe learning how to play an instrument. Try to think outside the box. Something that you want to do, something that you have a desire or a passion to do, but maybe you've been very rigid and stuck into your a consistent way of doing things. Break outside of that box and learn something new. Another strategy would be to ask for help. Oftentimes we're resistant to change, so it would be important to try to solicit help from a trusted person. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Be flexible. Be open to new ideas. Be open to a new viewpoint, a new perspective. It may shed insight, it may shed light on your situation and help you to either move past something or improve and do a better job, become more efficient at what you're currently doing. And then thirdly, remain grounded. Right? So through your flexibility, make sure that you stay grounded in sufficient thought and valid evidence. Don't confuse being so flexible that you're impulsive, right? So also want to have a level of foundation, making sure that you are grounded with that. Stress tolerance is the next area of focus in dealing with stress management. Stress tolerance, right? We've already mentioned, and we all know that stress is inevitable. So when you think about stress tolerance, it's more so how do you respond to stress? How do you respond to stressors? How do you cope with stress? So the definition of stress tolerance would be the ability to effectively cope with stressful or difficult situations. When you're faced with these stressful situations or these difficult situations, how do you respond? Does it negatively impact your emotions? Do you express physical symptoms? Or are you able to cope? Are you able to deal positively with said situation? So I want to break down and look at the table, just like we did for flexibility. Look at this table of what it looks like to be low in stress tolerance versus what it looks like to be high in stress tolerance, right? So if you have somebody who's low in the area of stress tolerance, they may lack coping mechanisms or be ineffective in their coping mechanisms. That's where you may see somebody go on a downward spiral if they're faced with stressors. They don't have a very productive way of dealing with the stressful situation they're in. Somebody who's reactive and being reactive, you are, in a sense, on your back foot, which doesn't do you great justice. Another example would be somebody who's fearful and maybe expresses high anxiety levels, right? So when stressful situations or difficult situations come into play, fear usually takes over or anxiety takes over, and you're not able to move forward as effectively. You may get stuck. You may start expressing and manifesting these symptoms of stress that may negatively impact you. Versus somebody who's high in stress tolerance does have an effective coping mechanism. And that can look different for every individual, but they have a great way to respond and deal when they're faced with stress. Are able to remain calm, maintain control of the situation. They don't get flustered, don't get fearful, but also remain optimistic, whether that be towards change, in light of the stressful situation, can still find a positive outlook, but all the while being able to remain stable and maintain and be relaxed. I would like to also bring a level of awareness to how you can self-assess for stress tolerance. So think of a demanding, unpleasant, or unexpected situation that has arisen recently at work or school. So grab that notebook or whatever it is that you're writing with and jot down, record your feelings, your physical reactions, and the negative impact of stress. Then think back to several recent stressful incidents. Do these events form a pattern? And let's think practically. What do strategies look like? Strategies for action and stress tolerance. There's several different coping strategies. Here are just a few. One would be deep breathing, and there's several different methods or variations of deep breathing. So take your pick, but deep breathing oftentimes helps you to remain centered, to calm you down, and to help you to focus in light of stressful situations. There's also visualization exercises which help you to go into a happy place, find that ideal state that you want to be in. Then you can also practice yoga, Tai Chi, or even different meditation techniques. Also, a great strategy is just find some place that you can declare a worry-free zone. And what that means is really just try to maybe switch up your environment where you can spend at least 5 minutes in a different location. That allows you to disconnect, detach from whatever stressful situation you find yourself in, to recuperate, to recover, to zone in, and to get back to a grounded level. And then lastly, pay attention to your signs. One sign that's a great indication that you may be at your maximum capacity for stress is exhaustion. Exhaustion can be a signal that you have maybe taken on too much. Maybe you need to lighten your load, and maybe you need to put into practice some of these different coping strategies, maybe take a 5-minute break, find that worry-free zone. And the third area of focus today would be optimism. And optimism is really the ability to look at the brighter side in life, to maintain that positive attitude. And so a definition would be the ability to remain hopeful and resilient despite setbacks. And I think that's the essential key there is despite setbacks. It's easy to be optimistic when everything is going well. But when you're faced with a setback, when you're faced with a difficult situation, when you are faced with challenges, having that resilience and that ability to be able to stay positive, maintain positive attitude, and really have a positive outlook on life will be key to dealing effectively with stress. And so comparing low optimism to high optimism, people who are low in the optimism aspect oftentimes fear the worst will happen. And I'm sure we all know people who we deem as pessimistic, right? Always looking at the worst, always looking at the wrong, having the glass half empty versus half full. And oftentimes this manifests itself with somebody who is uncertain about the future. And then we look at the high aspect of optimism. It's the ability to have a positive attitude in the face of adversity. Everybody does face adversity at some point in their life, and how you respond to that adversity will show whether or not you have a high level of optimism or not. Somebody else who's high in optimism is hopeful. They're hopeful in their approach to life, and they're confident about the future. Versus somebody, like we said earlier, who is uncertain. Somebody who's confident about the future is looking at the future through a positive lens. And so optimism to me is really about perspective. It's the perspective in which you look at life through. You have the choice. Every day you have a choice where you can look at life through a positive lens, or you can look at life through a negative lens. And if you look at life through a positive lens, that will help you to remain hopeful, help you to remain resilient, and help you to be positive despite setbacks. Here is a really cool self-assessment for optimism. What I want you to do is answer the following questions with never, seldom, occasionally, frequently, or always. And there's only 8 questions to respond to. Once you finish answering the questions and write those down in your notebook or whatever it is that you're writing with, I want you to give yourself a score for each response. So give yourself a -4 for never, -2 for seldom, 0 for occasionally, +2 for frequently, and +4 for always. Once you're done, add up your score. If it is negative, then you tend toward pessimism. If it's positive, you are likely optimistic in your perspective. So again, let's make this practical. What are some strategies for improving optimism? If you are somebody who is pessimistic or find yourself pessimistic about something, about the stressful situation, about a challenge or a difficult situation you're in, try to identify your trigger for your pessimism. Now this will cause you to have a level of reflection, a level of introspection, but really try to identify what it is that triggers your pessimism. Then also debate the validity of the pessimism. Is it accurate? Is it valid? Right? A lot of times we are pessimistic just because that's either a pattern and just a negative response that we have, but we have the ability to change our perspective and change our attitude toward each and every situation we face. And lastly, reevaluate your goals. Try to visualize a successful outcome. If the current goals that you have are causing you to be stressed out, are causing a negative response to stress, maybe it's time to reevaluate those goals. Maybe you set the goal too high. Maybe you want to reset the goal. Maybe you want to visualize, focus on visualizing yourself achieving and being successful in the outcome. And everything we've talked about today plays an integral role in formulating your well-being. Well-being is important. Your happiness, your overall well-being is essential. And this being Be Well Week, we want to make sure that we hone in on what it means to be well and having that holistic well-being. Well-being can be characterized by feelings of satisfaction, contentment, and the ability to enjoy the many aspects of one's life. So there's several indicators of your well-being. Feeling satisfied with your life, enjoying yourself and others, having the ability to have fun, and well-being is also associated with cheerfulness and enthusiasm. So it's important to take a step back, think about these things, think about what these indicators describe you now. If not, reflect and think about what are some things that maybe need to change. How would you need to improve in certain areas? What are some takeaways that you can apply from the strategies we've discussed? Maybe you take another look at your self-assessment, pinpoint a few things, and try to focus on managing your stress better to have a better overall well-being. I'd like to provide you with a few resources today. So we have a company that we use called WellConnect that provides counseling services. You can access meditation videos online through the Honest Guys. They have a YouTube channel. There's meditation apps like Insight Timer and Headspace that would be great tools to use for meditation. We are, as part of the Office of Care Civility, currently posting daily workouts on our HSC Fitness Center Facebook page. And then you can always reach out to CAP, or the Center for Academic Performance, to help with stress management as well. Remember, life isn't about what happens to you. It's about how you react to it. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Thank you for your time today.